You ever have one of those days where everything goes sideways before you even finish your morning coffee? That was me, just trying to soak in a little sunshine, cruising around in my cherry red Mustang, paint still gleaming, engine purring, radio off because I liked hearing the way the exhaust echoed down the block. I parked it out front, windows down, figuring nothing could happen in the 5 minutes it'd take to grab my mail and toss some laundry in. I should have known better. Where I live, nothing stays peaceful for long, especially when you've got neighbors like mine. So, picture this. I'm halfway to the porch when I spot him. Hoodie pulled tight, skateboard swinging from one hand, trying to look invisible. Mrs. Whitaker's kid. Yeah, the same Mrs. Whitaker who runs our HOA like it's her personal kingdom, clipboard and all. Her son's the type you hear about, but never really see. People whisper about the pranks, the property damage, the time someone's garden gnome ended up in the pool. He looked right through me, eyes darting to my car. I should have put the pieces together, but hindsight's a cruel friend. Next thing I know, the kids yanked open my door, slid behind the wheel, and before my brain can catch up, I hear the engine fire. My car, my pride, my baby, peels out like he's in the world's worst Fast and Furious remake. Tires screaming, rubber burning. I'm running, arms flailing, looking like a sitcom extra having the world's worst day. And just like that, he's gone. Vanished. A streak of red and a cloud of disbelief. Now, if you think I handled it calmly, you don't know me. I'm calling 911, voice cracking, trying to sound sane as I explain that. Yes, my car was just stolen by the HOA president's kid. Not exactly the kind of thing you want to admit to dispatch, but what are you going to do? Minutes blur, might have been seconds. Adrenaline does weird things to your sense of time. Then I hear it. Not just any crash, but that bone-shattering, soul-twisting crunch that says something precious just got destroyed. I race down the street, breath catching in my throat, and there it is, my Mustang. Folded against a police cruiser, right in front of the precinct for good measure. Cops swarm out, the kid's halfway out of the driver's seat, looking about as stunned as I feel. He doesn't run, probably knows better. They slap cuffs on him, his hoodie falling back to show the face of a kid who thought he'd live forever, until about 10 seconds ago. And you'd think that's the end of it, right? I wish. That's where the real show starts. There's the aftermath. Insurance calls that make you want to tear your hair out, angry officers, neighbors poking their heads out, and of course, Mrs. Whitaker, Karen, to those who felt her wrath, emerging like she's the judge, jury, and HOA executioner all in one. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up a sec. See, there were signs. Weeks before, I'd catch Karen's kid lurking near my driveway, fiddling with his board, eyes locked on my Mustang like he was sizing up a bank vault. At first, I brushed it off. Teen curiosity, right? But every time he skated past just a little too slow, something in my gut said, lock up. Did I listen? Of course not. The morning of the Joyride, I'd left the keys in the ignition, just for 5 minutes, mind you. 5 minutes is all it takes to rewrite your whole week. Turns out, this wasn't just any kid. He had a history. Eggs on windshields, mailboxes tagged, nothing too major until now. But a Mustang? That's a whole different league. For him, it must have felt like destiny. For me, it was pure nightmare. He slipped in, checked the mirror, and blasted off like he'd been waiting for this moment his whole life. Meanwhile, I'm rooted to the spot, helpless, every beat of the engine echoing my panic. The chase wasn't really a chase. It was me, flailing, chasing ghosts. The kid swerved, showing off, probably laughing, until he wasn't. Until that turn, too sharp, and the front end met the law in the loudest, most public way possible. I remember the metal folding, glass exploding, neighbors screaming, sirens firing up, and then the world just stopped. The silence after chaos is almost worse than the noise. That's when Karen showed up. She didn't yell. She didn't need to. Arms crossed, lips pressed so tight they could cut glass. She glared at me like I'd planned the whole disaster. You left your car unlocked? She demanded, her tone making it clear she thought I was the menace, not her kid. Every answer I gave felt like I was testifying in court. The cops wrote up reports, one shaking his head at me like I was 12. I wanted to say, you think this is my fault? Really? But I kept my mouth shut. No sense making an enemy out of the HOA queen. Then came the flood. News travels at the speed of Wi-Fi around here. By that night, I was getting texts from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone had an opinion. My stupidity, Karen's parenting, the Mustang's fate. I even got a message from the old guy down the block, offering to buy my car as is for scrap. Yeah, that happened. But the real twist? That came with the insurance. Next morning, my phone lights up. Turns out, since Karen's kid was a minor, her policy's got to cover most of it, but not before a circus of forms, adjusters, and back-and-forth finger-pointing that nearly broke me. Karen herself cornered me outside the repair shop, lecturing me on community responsibility and how this should be a lesson to us all. I almost laughed. She was schooling me about boundaries after her son used my car as a battering ram. For weeks, the Mustang sat in the shop, stripped of dignity, while I replayed every second in my head, wondering what I could have done different. Friends checked in. Some blamed me, some blamed Karen. Some just wanted front row seats to the neighborhood drama. That's life. When something wild happens, people don't care about right or wrong, just the spectacle. But here's the thing. By the time my Mustang rolled back into my driveway, battered but alive, I'd stopped caring about blame. I'd learned the hard way to trust my instincts, lock my doors, and never underestimate how fast things can spiral. Karen's kid got his punishment, fines, probation, and the kind of parental discipline you only see when reputation's on the line. My Mustang got a few new scars. I got a story I'll never forget. So now, whenever I see a hoodie and a skateboard, I just smirk, lock my doors, and count my blessings. Life's not about the joyrides you plan, it's about surviving. The ones you never see coming. And if you stuck around for this whole wild ride, do me a favor, smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments. Would you have chased him? Called the cops? Or just laughed it off and let karma work its magic? Let's hear what you'd do, because around here, the drama never really ends that you'd think after a car crash, a cop car, and an HOA showdown. Life would just kind of return to normal, right? Well, maybe in some universe, just not mine. See, the funny thing about chaos is it never really ends. It just gets quieter for a while, like a storm lingering out at sea, waiting for the next opening to strike. That week felt like living in a fishbowl, neighbors peering through curtains, every conversation about the incident, as if giving it a fancy name made it any less embarrassing. And then, just when I thought I'd heard every possible take on Mustang Gate, came the real twist. Turns out, the repair shop found more damage under the hood. Way more. We're talking bent frame, blown suspension, a laundry list of parts that'd make a grown mechanic cry. Insurance wanted to total it. Karen, naturally, thought I was making it up. She actually showed up at the shop, clipboard in hand, because of course she did, insisting the damage couldn't be that bad. I nearly lost it right there. But something about her disbelief was almost funny, like she'd rather trust paperwork than her own eyes. But it wasn't just her. Word had spread to the HOA board. Suddenly, I'm getting emails about vehicle safety, community standards, and even a passive-aggressive note about how cars should be parked with doors locked at all times. No one mentioned the little detail that her son had been the culprit. Nope. The story had somehow flipped. I was the cautionary tale, the guy who'd let the neighborhood down. You know what I mean? Classic. And yet, as much as it stung, something weird started to happen. A few days after, there's a knock at my door. Not Karen. This time, it's her husband, Mr. Whitaker. Quiet guy, hardly ever says much. He stands there, awkward, hands stuffed in his jacket, and then, get this, he actually apologizes. Says he's sorry for everything his son put me through, that he should have seen the warning signs. He hands me a battered, old envelope. Inside is a handwritten note from the kid. It's messy but honest. I'm sorry. I screwed up. I'll do better. There's even a $20 bill, taped to the bottom, like that'd make up for a totaled Mustang. But you know what? That note hit me harder than any bill or repair cost. Because it wasn't about the money, not really. It was about someone finally owning up, breaking the silence. That I hadn't expected. In the meantime, my car sat at the shop, half disassembled, waiting for the insurance dance to play out. Karen started a neighborhood safety patrol, which meant more rules, more emails, more clipboards and driveways. There were meetings, debates, folks arguing about whose fault it really was, even though the answer stared everyone right in the face. The whole thing was like reality TV. Except the prize was just surviving the next HOA meeting with your sanity intact. And then came the wild card. One evening, just as I'm finishing dinner, I hear tires crunching on my gravel. Not the repair guy, not Karen. This time, it's Marty, the ex-Marine who lives 3 doors down. Never thought I'd see the day, but he hands me a set of old keys. Figured you could use a loaner until the Mustang's back on the road. He says, gruff but genuine. It's an old pickup, runs rough, smells like pine needles and diesel, but damn if it didn't feel like the most generous thing in the world right then. That's the thing about neighborhoods, even weird ones. Sometimes, the people you least expect show up for you. Weeks drag by. The insurance finally coughs up a check. Not enough, but better than nothing. The Mustang gets a second chance. New paint, fresh parts, a few battle scars that I honestly kind of like now. Every scratch tells a story. And I guess, so do I. Karen? She never apologized. She just doubled down, started pushing for new HOA rules about vehicle conduct and community values. I heard her son's doing community service now, picking up trash at the park every weekend. Not the worst outcome, if you ask me. Maybe, just maybe, he'll remember what it feels like to make things right. And as for me, I keep my keys in my pocket, my door's locked, and my sense of humor somewhere between sarcastic and survival mode. Life here's never going to be normal, but maybe that's not such a bad thing. Every time I hear an engine rev or see a hoodie go by, I smile, a little older, a little wiser, and a whole lot more careful. So, let's keep this going. If you've ever had a neighbor from hell, a car disaster, or a story crazier than mine, I want to hear about it. Drop it in the comments. Hit that like if you survived your own HOA drama, and don't forget to subscribe for the next wild ride. Because in my neighborhood, you never know what's coming around the corner, and honestly, neither do I.